Shalom, I give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. I give double honors to our apostles and elders. It's a great millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim pushing his word across the four corners of the earth. This lesson is entitled, Remember the Days of Old. This is Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter and the 7th verse. Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Majority of our elders of our nation today, you know, they pretty much like old lions, how I mentioned in the book of Genesis, the 49th chapter. They couch down, they associated with this American system. They want you to live out the American dream, and they're not studying what happened to them in the past. And you might have certain ones of our people be able to tell you certain events that happened to them or to them and to, their foreparents. And we also have, these different historical events as well, such as different books that go into about our people suffering slavery, Trail of Tears, and other type of events that happen on our people by this so-called white man. So I was on Google Plus, and this is a book called A Sacred Path, The Way of the Muskogee Creeks, written by Gene Chowdhury. And it's pretty much going into the account of this man right here. You can see his name is James Scott, and he was from the Muskogee Creek tribe, which would be from the tribe of Gad. That would be his biblical identity. So he's going to his account when he was very young, around 7 to 8 years old, and how his account was of the Trail of Tears. It says the late James Scott, who died around 1944 at about 110 years of age, he walked the Trail of Tears from the Alabama-Georgia region to Oklahoma when he was 7 to 8 years old. His parents died during the removal. He was from Okemah, Oklahoma, and belonged to Greenleaf Ceremonial Ground. Since he had outlived most of his contemporaries, he was a major resource on Creek history and culture. He was well known for his storytelling abilities. With others, he incorporated Greenleaf Church in 1910, a little ways from Greenleaf traditional ceremonial grounds, and stayed in touch with both groups. At over 100 years old, Scott was alert and talkative. He chewed tobacco and carried his own medicine pouch. The following is his recollection of the Trail of Tears. One morning, when it was already getting cold, a runner came to our village out of breath, saying haltingly, "Talking papers. They are sending people with talking papers. People are already disappearing. What's left behind is being stolen. They are sending us to a burial ground. They keep talking about Judgment Day. We need to either hide or mix with other tribes up north. These demons are shooting Indians if we resist. I have to warn the next village." He left, and even though I was just a boy, I knew that something very bad was about to happen. A dark cloud hovered over us, and that dark clouds represent those curses from Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. He was so wroth with our people for breaking his laws, statutes, and commandments that he gave to the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and we broke them. It was a contract, their agreement, that covenant that he made to us, and we wanted to serve other gods and do all type of wickedness and not partake in the laws of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai. He came on us, and by coming on us, he sent the so-called white man, whose the biblical name is Esau, Edom, Edomites, the Idumeans. He sent them on us, you know. So that's for us breaking his laws, statutes, and commandments. And as you can see, James Scott said, a dark cloud hovered over us. This is Lamentations, the 2nd chapter, and the 1st verse. How have the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in his anger? Hence in the curses. You can read that in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, starting at the 15th verse on down. And that further proves that these so-called Native Americans are from the 12 tribes of Israel as well. Because a lot of our people want to say that 12 tribes of Israel only consists of the Negroes. But you still have Latinos and Hispanics and the Native Americans. They fit those same curses as well. We have the same common enemy. We are in the same predicament right now. How have the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in his anger, and cast down from heaven unto the earth the beauty of Israel, and remember not his footstool in the day of his anger? And this account right here is showing the day of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua's anger. The Most High, he was very mad at our people, and he's still mad at this day. Cause this right here is just a prelude what's about to get ready to come in Jacob's trouble. Lord willing, we're gonna get that scripture too. So right here it says, a dark cloud hovered over us. I don't know how many days went by. We started gathering provisions. We talked about other tribal towns. The earth trembled. Even the trees seemed to be shaking because those armies of the so-called white men, they was coming in numerous amounts. So to him as a young boy, he said it felt like, the earth trembled. But that's how heavy that this so-called white man has a hate toward our people. And you notice that he called them demons. All right, it says the hovering dark cloud brought the evil men sooner than we expected. The soldiers started shooting. The whites rounded us up like cattle and put shackles on the strong men. There was a silent cry, no words, so devastating silent prayers, the low humming of the chant of communal encouragement. Gun butts were hitting mouths. That morning cold winds blew like judgment day. We did not know where we were heading. There were talking papers, more talking papers. The whites would keep on bringing talking papers, and tragedy always followed. So then let you know the so-called white man is not about his word, man. He had these so-called peace treaties that he made with the so-called Native Americans, and he broke every single last one of them, man. That's how you know you cannot trust the so-called white man. When he always tell you something is good, you better look for something bad about to get ready to happen. Everything is the opposite with the so-called white man. He's not for you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Hispanics, and Native Americans because he knows who we are and he wants that blessing from the past, from the book of Genesis, the 25th chapter, when our forefather Jacob supplanted Isaac through receiving the blessing that we got away from Esau. Esau still has that same hatred toward our people to this day. And majority of our people, you're going to see it the very hard way. It says the whites will keep on bringing talking papers, and tragedy always followed. But the so-called white man represents death. Along the trail, they split us up. I lost my mother and father and ended up with an uncle. And let you know right here, this is Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. How Bashem Shah was going to separate us from our people, our mother and father. That's how you had our people just going down as a heritage, because you might have a so-called Negro. You probably knew that he was Israelite when he came off those slave ships. But when he was separated from his children, they didn't know anymore. Then they probably had children, they didn't know. So they let you know it was just a continual cycle of this so-called white man oppressing our people. Little babies sometimes will have their heads smashed against a tree. Strong shackled men were used for pulling wagons and chopping wood. Those who got sick were left or dumped by the soldiers. There was hardly any food. People were hungry, cold, and frostbitten. The whites roasted meat, and the aroma made you want to die. Each time someone fell, they sacrificed, saying, "Take my blanket, I am going home." The chilling wind never left us. We have seen blizzards. Now we were in one. Even strong buffalo would not have survived such a winter. Somehow the Creator was with us. Most of the time, children walked. However, sometimes they would be allowed to ride in a wagon with older folks. About the time we reached Indian territory, there were very few of us, mostly older children and shackled men. After our walk, there were no babies left. They killed the babies. Hardly any women made it. I only had one uncle left. We began with about 500 in our group, and we wound up with 50, and we wound up near Okima, Asilnabi, Greenleaf, the places where we finished growing up. These places were near some Christian Indians who had already got there before us. Nita Spooky, the last day. I was always looking forward, but it did not come. It took 20 years for the nightmares to lessen. So that's the account right there of this Muskogee Creek named James Scott. And it says that most of the people that survived were shackled men and older children. There were no babies left. They killed the babies. Hardly any women made it. So let's fast forward to this time now. We're about to get ready to end up at, which is called Jacob's Trouble. How much more now with the technological advances this so-called white man has in his weaponry? Like how much more killing or murdering, should I say, he's going to do to our people? This is Isaiah 59 and 19. So shall they fear the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the so-called white man, biblical name Esau, Edom, Edomites, the spirit of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua should lift up a standard against him. That standard is going to represent spiritual power. It's going to be given to the elect of the nation of Israel, the 144,000 men. Because no matter what, we cannot combat this man just on a physical level. We're going to need some type of spiritual divination to take over this white man. And that's going to be those spiritual powers Yahweh Bashem shall bestow upon his hopeful elect. This is Isaiah 10 and 5. O Assyrian, the rod of my anger and the staff in their hand is my indignation. And the modern day Assyrian is the so-called white man. He represents Assyrian now. And it says the rod of my anger. So this so-called white man is the rod of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua's anger. And he's going to really show this when Jacob's trouble comes. Verse 6, I will send him against a hypocritical nation and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge. So Yahweh Bashem Yahusha is going to allow him to do this. He's going to allow him to murder the majority of our people, 2/3 of the nation of Israel. To take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire of the streets. So there's going to be much death in the streets of America. There's going to be millions upon millions of our people going to be put to death because you didn't want to come to Yahweh Bashem Yahusha. You fed your hand at his prophets. Therefore, Yahweh Bashem Yahusha is going to get charged as this so-called white man to put wrath on our people. This is Daniel 12 and 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was a nation even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book. And this is the time of Jacob's trouble. And we just read about the account of Trail of Tears. We see how horrible that event was. You hear stories about the translated slave trade. When we got here also on the shores of America, how people suffered harsh slavery. The time of ancient Egypt, how our people served harsh slavery. The time of Masada, when so-called Romans came against us. The event in Natchez, Mississippi. How the so-called white man came against our people. None of that is going to compare to the time of Jacob's trouble, which is about to get ready to come. So Lord willing, this was edifying. Like give all honor and glory again to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushai, by Hashem, Bakakudash, double honor to our apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim again. Shalom.